Hey, what's up? It's Mac again, and I'm continuing my series on going over the gear breakdowns on my upcoming Aconcagua expedition. So today I'm going to be going over my total leg layers. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about everything that I'm going to be wearing in terms of the expedition, starting from the approach all the way finishing to a potential summit, as well as some of the things I would be wearing at camp. I think this is pretty encompassing in terms of everything you might need, but I think the important thing is that there are generally cheaper alternatives or different sort of preferences that you might want to pick. So I don't necessarily think there's an exact science onto leg layers, but there's generally some good basis you need to follow. For starters, on the approach, we're going to be doing a 2-day approach to Aconcagua, which is going to be great. So I'm going to be starting off with a running shorts. I like running shorts because they come with an integrated sort of liner. When I run with these, I actually like to wear underwear, but because I'll be wearing long johns with them, I probably will just not be utilizing my underwear and only wearing the long johns and my running shorts just to keep from like bushwhacking, things like that. So the important thing for the approach section is you want something very light, very breathable, because you are going into like 50, 60, maybe even 70 degrees. It could be a little bit lower, and then it could get cooler at night. And so you're carrying light loads, you're going pretty far. I think our first day, we're actually doing a 17-mile approach. And that's in conjunction with going into higher elevation. I think base camp actually sits at 14,000 feet. So I would imagine over 17 miles, we're going to be gaining 2,000 to 3,000 feet in elevation. I'm not exactly sure, but I would imagine it's going to be at least 2,000 feet of vert a day, slowly acclimatizing. But it will be expedited, so that first day is definitely going to wear you out and something that you want to go light. We're actually going to be using running vests and putting a lot of stuff, the primary stuff, on the mules, so that and then like we'll have one mule that's meeting us at our intended base camp, and then the other mule that's going to be meeting us at the actual base camp, which is whatever the primary base camp at the base of the mountain. So we have sort of approach camps that we're going to be going to. So wearing running shorts for the approach, and then I'm also wearing these military grade, I would call them a silk weight, which is just a term that like backpackers and mountaineers use for like super ultra light long johns. The reason I'm picking these is one, they're super light. They're actually like got like things coming off them, but they're a nice like light color, so they won't reflect the sun or they won't absorb the sun. They're certainly not that fashionable, but they will keep the sun off of my skin. When I did Rainier, I actually just wore shorts for a while, and then I had my trekking pants. And then once we got to Camp Muir, we actually camped at 11,000 feet at Ingram Flats, and we ended up going to Camp Muir, waiting for a little bit, and then going up to 11,000 feet. We didn't have ropes. We were waiting for a lower team to come down and get ropes. We probably could have gone up anyway without ropes, but we just elected to wait for the rope system before we went up. So wearing shorts, when I wore shorts on Rainier all the way up to 10,000 feet, I could definitely start to feel my legs baking, and I don't really want to risk that on a 3-week expedition. So I'm incorporating long johns. Once I get to base camp, I will probably be ditching both of these, putting them on the mules. But the one cool thing about having running shorts is they can also act as a secondary boxer briefs, which is really nice. Again, I'm not showing my underwear in this video, but I will show that probably in my socks and footwear and underwear video later. The other thing that I'm kind of debating, but I'm thinking because frankly, it's not something I necessarily have to carry, and it's more something that I can decide what to incorporate once I'm there on the mountain and what is necessary. So I actually will start with my trekking pants. I wear for big mountain objectives these like Eddie Bauer trekking pants. I think the difference between these types of trekking pants is they're extremely thin. They almost feel like, I would say, a windbreaker. They are a soft shell, but they're thinner soft shell than what a lot of people end up wearing. Most people wear like a more durable, intense soft shell. These are just like more of a classic trekking pant that's like super light. They dry really quick. They do block a little bit of wind. I really like the Eddie Bauer pants. They're okay. I mean, I'm sure like really nice high-end pants, I could find a brand that would fit my body really well, but they run the right waist and length size for me. They do have big cargo pockets, which is everything I want. They come in like a neutral color, so they definitely work for me. But they are lighter, so as a result, I like to bring thicker long johns to pair with them. On a single or 3-day approach, I would just pick one pair of long johns to pair with them and just be sort of comfortable, and hopefully they're warm enough. If they're not, then I can always throw on my hard shell pants, but ultimately that's sort of the decision point you have to make. But with a 3-week expedition, particularly thinking about the higher camps, I'm going to be bringing 2 sets of long johns. So I am bringing a 150 weight merino wool. This is a smart wool layer. I've had this forever. The one drawback on merino wool, and particularly like smart wools, is I've noticed the crotch will like start to go out, and I like to sleep in these. Not to be too much information, but I'll take my underwear off in the tent, and I will sleep in my long johns just to like air out my boxers, even though I do wear merino wool boxers too. But the goal of that is just so you're not like wearing boxers for like every single day, all day. And I find that since I'm not really moving, it doesn't really affect. But since the crotch is starting to wear out, I might need to be a little bit more private with my when wearing them, and not step out of the tent to do my business, or just make sure I'm not showing anything. But maybe I can bring my shorts, something like that. The other thing I'm bringing that's a new thing for me on a mountaineering trip is these thicker long johns. These are like a thermo weight long john. I got them at like an army surplus store. They're fairly light. They fit me really well. I wear these a lot skiing. They're like a grid fleece on the inside. So they're really nice and really comfortable and very soft. And I found that these have been very nice. I've actually worn them, and then like I can hike in them. So the plan would be taking both of these. These are things that I would wear, on the lower mountains if the temperature's pretty cold. A lot of people might just end up wearing their soft shell pants. And I'll definitely check with the temperatures, but it does get pretty cold. And because I wear much trimmer soft shell pants, I do want to probably have like a lighter pair of long johns for the lower camps for the movements. Just when you pair them together with the soft shell pants and the long johns, they make like what would be the same as a bulkier, beefier soft shell pant. So, and then also it's really nice to sleep in these. The other thing is when we get a little bit higher, I can add the thicker weight thermal long johns, and I can also wear them together. I can wear the thinner long johns first, and then I can wear the thermal weight long johns over top, and then I'll chop obviously my soft shell pants. That's particularly thinking about the summit day, and something that you'd want to incorporate, making sure you have adequate combination so that your legs are warm. Besides your outer layers, you're kind of looking at soft shell pants and your long johns being like your primary source of leg protection, and something that you want to be, I don't know if flexible is the right word, but something that you want to be very resistant. So like if it's a little bit warm, you can be comfortable, but it's also a little bit cold. It's going to block the wind. It's going to do a lot of things that keep you sort of comfortable as you're climbing up. The primary objective, unless the temperatures are extremely cold, will be to try and summit in just your soft shell pants, obviously with a parka, because the way your body works is, your heart is what, in your body and your core temperature is what's generating all the heat. And so, if you did something like, you can take an experiment, just put a vest on, out of all the layers, I know when we were a kid, we were said, 90% of your heat comes out of your head. Most of your heat actually comes out of your core. So that's why even on places like Denali, if you watch videos, a lot of guys will be wearing a big down parka, and then they'll be wearing, either soft shell and hard shell pants, but they're not wearing like a full summit suit. That's because, they can generate a lot of heat, but also dump a lot of heat by just wearing something on their core and then keeping moving. So having a really good system in place that can handle a wide variety of temperatures from not so challenging to pretty cold is definitely the key. And then if it gets to the extreme temperatures or extreme high winds, which Aconcagua is known to do, you have the other secondary items, which is your hard shell and your puffy pants. So this is a bit of a new product for me. I got it off eBay. I do a lot of things off eBay. They are a Helly Hansen packable hard shell pant. They have full zips, which is really cool. They're like an ultra light soft shell pant. And I will say that I do have some concerns that if I was in like a torrential downpour, that they might not be very accurate. They're probably leaning a little bit closer to like a wind layer over being like a full-on hard shell pant, but I'm pretty confident that they would do a pretty good job protecting me from, reasonable precipitation. Not certainly, like, I hate the term, like, when you think about it, like light precipitation, like what does that mean? But if there's a little bit of snow, a little bit of rain, but if you're in like a torrential downpour, then they probably won't keep my legs exceptionally dry. But that's one of the benefits of having an ultralight soft shell pants is these dry exceptionally well, and they'll dry on my body, which is really nice. And then having merino wool and fleece on your legs will keep you warm even if they're wet. So that's definitely the added benefit of having sort of these combination of things so that you can make them work together. So I just looked at my system and was thinking about what do I really want to bring and what do I think is going to be really beneficial for the trip, and having an ultralight pair of packable, lightweight, hard shell pants, cuts down on some significant, ounces in terms of the total weight that I'm bringing, but also can be something that I can implement as needed. The final thing, which is like the coolest item, but I don't wear them that much. I've worn them on mountaineering trips when realistically I've never summited or never needed to have puffy pants. When I summited, it's never been that cold for me. Even on Mount Washington, it's never been that cold. These are packable pants. I actually modified them a little bit. I sewed like the green into them, which I thought was pretty cool, and it's like they're like a windbreaker too. Because the idea would be if it's cold enough and there's wind, and I don't really want to have to put on hard shell pants if not and puffy pants. I really just wanted one or the other. So these are my puffy pants. They're going to be really great for wearing around on camp, really great for wearing on the summit if needed, and they have full zips. So my hard shell pants and my puffy pants both have full zips on the legs that come all the way up. Let's see if I can get them. I don't zip these up very much. There we go. All the way up so I can put them on. And then I can zip them all the way down, which is really nice. So you can get them on over your boots, and you'd have to be a little bit creative, but you could definitely get them on over crampons and boots as well. So given the style in which Veteran Adventure Group is probably going to be climbing the mountain, we're probably not going to be summiting in our puffy pants unless it's extremely cold. We're going to wait for a little bit closer to the morning and trying to be moving. Fast is a relative term, but a little bit faster than an average guided group. Average guided groups will typically leave what's called an alpine start, which basically means like super early in the morning. And so having this variety of system gives me a lot of flexibility to know that, my presumption is I'm going to be wearing my long johns, obviously underwear, but my long johns, my maybe thicker insulated long johns, my thermal over top of that, and my soft shell pants. And that should be adequate for what I can shoot for the summit. But if the temperatures are, say, extremely windy, I can add my hard shell pants, or if it's extremely windy and extremely cold, I can add my puffy pants as well. The benefits are, let's say we're at camp and it's really windy, but it's not too cold. I can wear my hard shell pants just to be a little comfortable. We could also theoretically be in the tents at that point. But there's a lot of work to be done at camp, from recovery, making water, doing a whole bunch of different things and chores, going to the restroom. So it's just nice to have a very flexible system. And this sort of idea applies to Denali. Denali specifically, from everything I've read about it, requires you to have a very flexible system. There are some people that wear like down suits on Denali. And everything I've learned about it just says that's, there's only like one point of time that a down suit is really nice. And that's really on the last 2,000 meters, 2,000 feet of gain when you're past the 17,000 camp, and maybe leaving. If you leave in an alpine start, it could definitely be beneficial, but there'll be times that you'll be pretty hot. So having a really good top and bottom system is definitely key. So having good puffy pants, in a Denali scenario, you'd theoretically be wearing basically all of this, and that's something to keep in mind. And potentially we'll be wearing that on Aconcagua, we'll definitely see. But yeah, that's basically all of my leg layering systems. One of the things that I think is really nice is, I've noticed that when I bring Puffy pants because I'm really worried that I'm gonna need, if you see my previous videos, I only have a 15-degree sleeping bag and everyone's bringing a 0-degree sleeping bag. I will bring my puffy pants. And I will tell you that when people don't bring puffy pants and the sun starts to go down, especially on a mountain when like the sun goes just over the ridge and it's still daylight out, but it's like getting dark, it gets very cold on a side of a mountain. And, you know, having puffy pants just gives you this added like nice little cozy thing to have on and just walk around before you get in your sleeping bag. And then if it's part of my sleep system, it's definitely a benefit. So this will be the first time within a long expedition that I'm implementing puffy pants, incorporating puffy pants into my sort of long-term kit, but I've definitely brought them before for things like just part of my sleep system. And then, you know, if I'm gonna bring them, I'm gonna utilize them at camp anyway. So yeah, that's my total system. These are the things I'm taking on the approach, and then I'll just have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 total pieces as part of my leg layering system. There is a chance that after we do some assessments that it makes sense to only bring, you know, maybe drop these merino wool long johns and just bring the thermal weight long johns, but that's something that I'm gonna wait for when we get to the actual expedition, and I talked to Austin, the expedition lead, as we make sort of gear evaluations to decide. But one thing that you can do as part of your caching efforts, when you know, and caching is the concept where you're bringing up different supplies and food and starting to establish a base camp, but you're also doing the effort of trying to acclimatize. I might take things like my thermal long johns from camp 1 to camp 2 and stash them there because they're really not needed. And then I can just incorporate, and probably my puffy pants as well. So yeah, that's basically all of my layering systems for my bottoms. Hope this was really helpful. Have a good one. Talk to you later.